Hello, everyone. It's Kerilie McDowall from Easy Jazz Spotlight, Easy Jazz FM. And I'm really excited to be here with you today with Cory Weeds. You know him already as a saxophonist extraordinaire of the jazz ilk. And he's also the owner of Cellar Music Group. And he's got an incredible label with well over 300 artists on it, and he's been all over the place from New York to Vancouver, you name it. He's been there. Welcome, Cory.
Hey, Kerilie, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here with you today, Cory Weeds. Let me see, where should we start? Well, okay, because you're a saxophonist and you're such a music aficionado, I should probably start with your early roots in music, how that started for you.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a musical household. My father was an amateur guitar player, so there was always a lot of music in my house. It was always, it was always encouraged. I'm not sure that, my parents quite had the path that I ended up taking in mind when they got me into the music, but the main thing is that it was always something that was encouraged in my household. So there was always a lot of music going on. We had a piano. I took piano lessons, and there was always singing and playing, and music was just always just a big part of my life, whether I was playing it or not. So I mean, that's essentially where it started.
Was the saxophone your first instrument, or did you start off on something?
No, I played piano, like most people. Played piano, took piano lessons, didn't really like it. I had a cousin who was a little older than me who I really looked up to. He played saxophone,
Mhm.
and I thought he was really cool. He was just a cool guy. So that's kind of how that, morphed into me playing saxophone, was sort of trying to emulate him a little bit.
So how old were you when that
I
happened?
mean, I started playing saxophone, I guess maybe around grade 8 or grade 9,
Oh,
you know?
wow. So
So, yeah. So, not seriously. I mean, I was just playing it in band and I was taking some private lessons, but, it didn't really click for me until about grade 10. It really clicked for me when I was in my graduating year, which, compared to most musicians, that's actually pretty late.
yeah, true.
But it really clicked for me in around grade 11.
Wow, okay. And then so did you study music at school or
Yeah, I went to Cap College for 3 years, and then I got a scholarship to go to the University of North Texas.
oh wow.
And I went there for a year. Um, I had a good time at North Texas. It was a good experience. I enjoyed it, but I was pretty young, so I came home with the intent of getting my bachelor's in Vancouver and then keeping my scholarship and going back to North Texas to get my master's. And it didn't quite pan out that way. I got back to Vancouver and just sort of realized pretty quickly that I wasn't gonna. I didn't want to go to school. That the school was not the route that I wanted to take. So I quit and I went on the road with a pop band,
Hmm.
kind of a jam pop band, and then the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, many entrepreneurs are of that ilk, like you know, I don't want to get too negative here, but just the aspect of critical thinking that entrepreneurs tend to push, school can be a tough thing for people that are more kind of independent thinkers, I would say, and it
Yeah,
seems
I mean, it was just more about, I had gotten everything that I needed to get from school, which was the relationships. Really, that's what I got out of it. And I just, it's like, what was a bachelor of performance really going to get me? And I didn't want to teach. I just had no. I knew very young. I knew from a very young age that teaching was not the route that I was going to take.
so
I just knew. So what, for me, it became like, well, then what's the point?
yeah. So,
What am I doing?
so what led you to, like, you did get involved, in business and kind of entrepreneurial activities for a while. You were running the Cellar Jazz Club in Vancouver, and then you started your own label. But what led you to business? Like, how did you get there?
I mean, I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I always that part always lived inside me. I liked the idea of risk. I liked the idea of creating. I liked the idea of selling. Um, and that was coupled maybe a little bit with, I kind of grew up, I kind of came up right when the scene was changing a little bit. And I sort of knew from a very young age that if I was going to work in this business, it was going to be through work that I created for myself. My phone wasn't going to ring off the hook with people wanting me to play saxophone in their bands and saxophone on their records. I just knew that wasn't going to be the case. So, I don't know. I wanted to be close to this music, and I just sort of decided that I was just going to create my own reality and create my own work for myself, and that's the way it worked out. Not everybody has an entrepreneurial spirit. I had one, and I
Mm,
used it to the best of my abilities, and looking back after 30 years, I guess I did pretty well. But
yeah, you
I
did.
there was some luck along the way. There was some hard work. There was some wins. There were some losses. But at the end of the day, I'm better for it. So
Hmm. So you did have losses at one point. What kind, like, I don't want to probe and get too personal, but was there anything that kind of set you
no,
back?
I mean just failures and not making money and losing money on some projects and maybe overestimating sometimes. Like just things like that. Like
Regular.
nothing major or bad, so to speak. Just some wins and losses as one has in the business world, especially in the jazz world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big learning, big learning experience to do all the things that I was doing. And yeah, in that regard, though that's, I lost some things, and lost some money, but at the end of the day, the way I look at it is as long as I have more victories than losses, then I think it's good. And that's the way it's been for my whole career. As long as I'm winning more than I'm losing, then I feel like it's a success for me.
Yeah, and like speaking of like risks as an entrepreneur, that's just all part of it. So it's pretty
Yep.
what you take on as an entrepreneur when
Sure.
yeah. But let's first talk about the jazz club that you started. When did you open up the cellar? Like because there traditionally was a cellar way back in the 50s and 60s that everybody knows,
Yeah, it's
but
kind of neat. They just actually, Heritage Vancouver's has this really cool project going on where they're honoring important places in the cellar. The old cellar got anointed an important Vancouver landmark, which is really cool. But yeah,
yeah.
so of course I didn't have anything to do with that. That was way before my time.
Mm,
Um, way before my time. But I opened my version of the cellar opened in 2000 and
mhm.
I closed it. It's important for me to delineate to explain that to people. The cellar didn't go out of business. I made a conscious choice to close it because I was done. And that
Mhm.
was in 2014 in March. I think our last performance there was I have a pamphlet around here somewhere. I think it was either February or early March of 2014. So it was a 14-year run, which I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah, well, it's there's quite a lot to be said for what you accomplished. You not only did you help the cultural scene in Vancouver flourish, but running a restaurant is a real major endeavor. Like there's a lot to it. There's working parts, from the staff to the menu and everything else. It's very hard work, very
It's
labor.
hard work and it's something, I didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy the restaurant aspect of it, but the
Mhm.
problem was in order to have a license, I had to have a restaurant, so it was almost more a case of having to have a restaurant than wanting to have a restaurant. And at the end of the day, that's what ended up making me want to get out. I mean, we had some issues with the landlord and we had some issues with our lease, and I could kind of see some things. I could see the writing on the wall with a couple of things. But yeah, I mean, essentially, if I could have just had a bar, which honestly I don't think would have worked in Vancouver, but if I could have just had a bar, I probably would have. Who knows? Maybe I would even still be there today. I don't know. But that was not a fun. The restaurant side of things was not fun for me at
Oh,
all.
I know. I've done some
Um,
of that work in the
yeah.
past. too. Yeah, I
It's
know what
just,
it's like.
it's just, yeah, it's not fun.
It's
And
a grind.
so, but I certainly don't have any regrets. I mean, that's a different part of my life, and I don't think a lot about it, but I certainly don't have a lot of regrets. It set me up nicely to, for the things that I'm doing today and, the label and all of that stuff. So I'm very, I feel very fortunate to be doing the things that I'm doing today, and it was all because of, that work and stuff at the cellar. So, so I feel, yeah, I
We're,
feel lucky.
we're going to talk about the label shortly, but just speaking of, the Cellar as a club, who were some of the artists you were bringing in? Now, I think you were bringing in like world-class artists. It wasn't just the local scene and Canadian scene. I
Yeah, I mean,
remember.
it was certainly based around the local scene, of course. But yeah, I mean, we started bring very early on. We started bringing people like Gary Bartz and Brian Lynch, great trumpeter, Charles McPherson, alto saxophonist, Dr. Lonnie Smith, David Fathead Newman.
Mhm.
So we started pretty early on bringing some international people to the club, which was very cool. So I mean, I had a very strong vision for what I wanted the club to be. Um, and I went out and did it, and I didn't sacrifice my vision. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I did it, and it was hard. It was really hard. There was, it was not always easy.
Mhm.
Um, but I did it, and so when I look back at it now, it's pretty cool. We brought some pretty incredible people in. We ended up Christian McBride ended up doing a 4 night run there. Joey DiFrancesco was a frequent visitor.
Wow.
In our closing month, we had the Monty Alexander trio, and I think that was the third time he was there. So yeah,
Great.
we did some pretty cool stuff.
How did you keep your saxophone playing going though through all of that? That's a lot
Uh,
of work. I'm wondering how you could keep it up while all that was happening.
well, yeah, it's funny. I was, with it being the label's 25th anniversary, I'm doing a lot of interviews, and that's a question that comes up a lot. For the first thing I'll say is that, and not a lot of people know this, but when I started the club, I had pretty much made the decision that um, I was going to be a club owner that moonlighted as a saxophonist. And I was going to sit in and, I was going to be that guy. Oh, yeah, he kind of plays some saxophone. I mean, at that point when I bought the club, I guess I'd already, I was already playing pretty good, but, that was what it was going to be. I was sort of giving up my career as a saxophonist. That was the plan. And,
Mm,
the total opposite happened. And I mean, looking back now, it's obvious as to why that happened. I mean, it happened because I'm around that music every day and hearing all that great music. In the early days of the club, I was at the club a lot, so I had my horns there, so I would practice. And I wasn't, and I also wasn't making very much money at the club. In the early days, I wasn't making any money, so I was still doing gigs too, to try to supplement my income. So, I was just around a lot of inspiration. It's still something today that I struggle with a little bit artistically in that I took a certain path, and my path has led me to have a great living, but it's led me to be very busy. So I do find, sometimes I'm a little hard on myself on the musical side because I haven't had the time to dedicate to it that somebody who has dedicated their whole life to solely being a musician. Um, but I mean, it's not something I spent a lot of time thinking about, but yeah, just by osmosis and just by being around the music forced me to keep my chops up, and I just did my best to find time. I have a very supportive family. I mean, my kids are grown now, they're 15 and 17, but my wife has always been very supportive of me and my endeavors. And so, that also can't be understated. So I had a really great support network that allowed me to do all this stuff, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not one that likes to talk great about myself, but I mean, my gift is that I have the ability to juggle a lot of things, and do everything that I do fairly well. And that's a sort of a skill that I have that not a lot of people have. So, I could run a good label and be a good father and be a good saxophone player and practice what I need to practice. I will tell you now though, it's really funny. I've been thinking a lot about this over the last little bit. Like I'm tired now, so I've noticed that it's taking a toll on my body and my health a little more than I would like. I don't have any serious health problems, but
Mm,
I think I have enough sort of problems that are caused by my inability to shut down and shut off. I'm always working. I'm always scheming and working. It's my personality. So,
mm.
people say, "Oh yeah, we're going away. I'm going to shut off for 2 weeks." I'm like, "That's great. I can't do that." So,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Well,
just I am how I am, and but yeah, I'm noticing now. I mean, I'm thinking that in the next 2 to 5, I'm 52. So in the next 3 years, like some things are definitely going to need to change in order for me to maintain a healthy lifestyle and maintain my health. So, but
mm.
it's a good run. I love the music more than anybody. And, it's been fun. I'm having a good time still. So,
Yeah, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs and people in business, it's just hard to turn it all off. It's
yeah,
happening 24 hours. This is part of the problem. And now that the world is so global and international and
yeah,
on social media, especially
yeah. It's also funny. Like, it's also, I don't want to turn it off. Like, I mean,
yeah, yeah,
that's really what it boils down to. Like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to turn it off. Now, some of that thought process is unhealthy. I mean, part of me doesn't want to turn it off because I'm so scared when I turn it back on, it's just going to be complete chaos. I'm just going to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
pummeled with stuff. But another part of it is I like what I do. I don't want to turn it off,
Mm,
and it keeps me fueled. So I think my whole life I've struggled and tried to find the balance, but the difference now is that I don't have age is not on my side any longer. So now I'm noticing like, damn, okay, like you're tired. If you're gonna go to New York for 3 days and produce a session and do that travel in 3 days, like you're gonna suffer for a week. Like you're gonna be tired. You can no longer just go back and forth and suffer no consequences from those actions. So it's forcing me to think a little bit more about that kind of stuff.
hmm Well, let's talk about the label. It is like, your 25th anniversary, which is huge. Congratulations.
Crazy, crazy.
Really, really excited about that for you. You've become like a really well-known label. You've this past year, in 2026, you were surfacing on the Downbeat Critics Poll label several times,
Yep.
not just as a record label, but also as a producer. So congratulations.
Thank you. I
Earned it. You
appreciate that.
deserve to be there. And yeah, it's really quite exciting to see how far you've taken this. So, I realized, like, wasn't it founded in 2001, this label?
I mean, yeah, it was founded pretty much right when I bought the club. I mean, so I bought the club in 2000.
Yeah.
The first official release, well, actually, that's not true. The first release that came out was something called Live at the Cellar.
Hmm.
Maximum Jazz presents Live at the Cellar. That was the first official thing that came out. And then the first actual record that came out was a Ross Taggart quartet, thankfully, and that was what launched the label. And so yeah, it's been 25 years, of course, is our anniversary, and we have I think we have 400 we're over 400 records now.
Oh, it's 400. Sorry, I got that
No,
wrong.
no, it's okay. You said I didn't correct you because you said 300 artists, which could very well be correct. But yeah, we have well over 400 titles now. And if you had told me that in 2000, I would have laughed at you. And I in earlier interviews, I used to always say to people, I've been trying to put the label out of business for since it started, and it just won't go away. And it's really funny, the label kind of always sort of like lived and everything was fine, but something really changed over COVID. And I
Mm,
don't know that COVID had anything to do with it, or if it was just coincidental timing. But of course, COVID, people were locked in their houses. There was a there was definitely a push to support local and support independent, and we benefited directly from that thought process. It
hmm
could also, like I said, it could also just be that it was just coincidental timing. But the label just plugs away. We've managed to generate a lot of revenue through streaming, and we've managed to sort of like wade our way through the streaming controversies, and we still sell a lot of physical copies through our distributor. We still sell a lot of artist copies. And so, it's a nice feeling for me because the label, I mean, it's a big operation. I mean, it generates a lot of revenue. It's a big operation, but it's not a life-changing or life-altering thing. I mean, it provides me with a ton of opportunity and it makes money, but it's not. I guess what I'm getting at is I can put out a record and lose money, and whatever, it's fine. We just move on to the next one. It's not this life. It doesn't pay my kids' it doesn't buy food for my family. It doesn't pay my mortgage. It's just something that lives there that's really fun. And so I'm super, super grateful because it's been a lot of fun and it's allowed me to, it's provided me with a lot of great opportunities.
And you're probably getting quite a lot of royalties, like what, from master recordings and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah, through streaming, through physical. I mean, we have many deals, and so it just depends on what kind of deal an artist on. We also get we also are heavily funded by Factor Canada
oh,
for
good.
our Canadian releases, which is, I mean, I can't overstate enough
Mm,
how much that has made a huge difference to what we do.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
you know, um, so yeah, I mean it's great. I love it. I love it. It's fun. We're recording Vancouver musicians, Canadian musicians, European musicians, lots of guys and girls from New York. I have a great relationship with Miki Yamanaka, who's a great pianist from New York City.
Oh, that,
Um,
yeah, she's
and then we have, yeah, so she's put out her fourth record for me, and then this one, a great new local tenor player, artist years from here, my own records,
yeah.
so
Let's
it's
talk about
great.
your records. So there's a couple. Well, there's one that you're focused on right now. You're just releasing singles from it. I guess you said it's kind of like a combo.
Yeah, I'm confusing everybody, but it's actually kind of a funny story. So what happened was, I just told you I'm funded by Factor.
Mm,
And so we had this great idea to do jazz arrangements of Huey Lewis and the News Tunes.
mm,
And this is my idea that I had a long time ago. The problem is Factor wouldn't fund it because Huey Lewis is considered contemporary pop music, and
mm,
Factor doesn't support the funding of that.
mm,
So we could argue about whether that makes sense or not, but it doesn't matter money. So what we had to do was we had to come up with different material. We had to write new material and perform other material in order to get the money to make the record. So
mm,
I really struggled with how to present this music to the world, and there wasn't really a good way to do it. We were going to do two CDs, but that seemed excessive. And
mm,
as it turns out, all the music fit on one CD. So
mm,
what we ended up doing is we just said, okay, we're going to, and I have one hiding here somewhere. Maybe it's not in here. But basically what we did is on one side, if you look at the LP record, it's, let me see if I can find one here. I thought it was going to be right here. Because it'd be cool to see it, but no, it's upstairs. So basically what we did is we had on one side, it's Cory Weeds, Hip to Be Square, plays the music of Huey Lewis and the News. And then when you flip it to the other side, it's a whole other record cover. It's Cory Weeds meets Chris Hazelton, Boop Bop Bing Bash. It's the same band. It's myself on tenor, Chris Hazelton from Kansas City on organ, David Rourke on guitar,
yeah, I
and
loved it.
yeah, and Rudy Pet Shower on drums.
Yeah.
And so half the record is Huey Lewis and the News Tunes. So one record is Huey Lewis and the News Tunes, and one record is Cory Weeds meets Chris Hazelton. They're combined on an LP, a double LP. On the CD, when you get the CD, you'll see the Huey Lewis cover, but when you open it up, you'll see the other cover, and then the liner notes kind of explain why it's like that. So what we did is, because we had so much material, I think we recorded 12 tunes, maybe even 13.
Mm,
Instead of doing the typical two singles, we released four singles. So we started with um, I can't believe I can't remember. I Want a New Drug. Then we went with an original of mine. Then the next single that comes out next month is If This Is It. And then the last single before the album drop is an original of David Rourke. So kind of gives us a longer album timeline to talk about the record. And we really we went all out on the manufacturing of this record. It's gatefold, tip-on jacket, so it's really heavy. So yeah, so I'm super excited about it. The Huey Lewis and the News stuff was received really well. We did a tour before we went into the studio, and it was awesome. It was really awesome. So
As a label, are you mostly releasing like two singles as sort of like your format? Yeah.
depends. It depends. I mean, sometimes none. Sometimes so. And I mean, if a musician hears this interview, they might argue with me, or somebody might argue with me. But essentially, you do singles in hopes that you get playlisted. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a team that playlists, excuse me, that pitches to playlists.
Mm-hmm.
The other part that makes singles great is that any musician who's a good self promoter, and by good self promoter, I mean musicians that are active on social media, can be a really good tool as well. So, but the problem is that it eats up your release dates very quickly. So now, if you have a record coming out, it used to be like 10 years ago, you just have a record that comes out. There's no such thing as singles.
Mm-hmm.
So, theoretically, you could release a record, you could release, I mean, theoretically, you could release, 150 records a year. Now, we can't because we have 3 release dates every Friday that include singles and full length records. So it really clogs up your schedule very quickly. And so what we do in order to sort of avoid clogging up the schedule is we don't, if somebody is not as good on social media and they're not going to promote, then there's no point in doing a single. So there's just no point. I mean, you could still get picked up if it gets pitched for playlisting, but if you're not going to promote your single, then there really is not much point in doing anything. So so typically we do 2 and then the full length. Sometimes we do 1 and the full length. And in rare cases, like we have a really great singer named Venetia Gould. With her, we're doing 3. We did 4 on mine just kind of as a tester, just because we had so much material and we had really great video from the session too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of a tester. And it's okay. It didn't pick up like I was hoping it would pick up, but
You want all your artists to have videos? Is that
it
what you?
helps. I mean, it helps. Video helps. It
Mhm.
really does help.
I have to say the video that you just released of Bria Skomberg, is that how I pronounce her name
Yeah,
correctly?
Scomber. Yeah, it's a good one, right?
Oh my gosh, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah,
She's
she's great.
so
She's really great to work with. We all everybody loves Bria. We all love Bria.
yeah, like I think there's awards coming for that album.
I hope so. Hopefully we can get a Grammy out of it. That'd be nice.
Maybe because she is just phenomenal on that. Like
She's a really great musician. And she's an equally great person too.
not
So
at all. The trumpet sounds great. Her voice sounds beautiful. Her look, her image is fabulous.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
like
I mean,
the ultimate artist.
she's the full package
Yeah, she
for
is.
sure.
Yeah. So okay, so I saw that, and of course I loved it. I was just loving it, by the way, because I just thought she was just
Good.
fabulous.
Yeah, she's
Was
great.
that your idea for the video, or was that her concept? I'm just curious.
No, that was her concept.
I was she
Yeah,
what a great idea being on the water like that, and I just loved it so much.
good. I'm glad. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So let's just talk about the label a bit more. So,
Sure.
if I Google you, like, because of course I Googled you before the interview, um,
Excellent.
AI lists this off. It says, founded in 2001, Cellar Live, Cellar Music, reel-to-reel recordings. So, are those all sort of like areas within the label, or what?
Well, yeah. So what happened was we used to be Cellar Live, and then I started like we used to be called Cellar Live, and then I started an archival label called Reel to Reel, which releases never before heard recordings from from various things, radio shows, board tapes, bootlegs. So I don't know, maybe about 6 years ago, right before COVID, we rebranded as the Cellar Music Group, and the concept was is that if we put out a studio record, we call it Cellar Music. If we put out a live record, call it Cellar Live. And if we put out an archival record, which is a different company, it would be Reel to Reel. And in principle, that theory was awesome and it was great. The problem is all it took was one screw up, that a live record came out and it was called Cellar Music, or I screwed up and we put out a studio record, but it was called Cellar Live. And I'm like, this is just not going to work. So we just generally now go by Cellar Music. That's basically what we go by, and it's just easier that way. Cellar
Mm.
Music. We don't delineate between live or anymore. It doesn't make any sense.
So do you do like you were telling me when we were off air that you go from city to city depending where the artist is and you use studios in the various cities. But what I wanted to know was like, okay, you say you have this reel-to-reel recordings, so you're
Mhm.
using recordings that were made previously. Mostly though of what you do is like original recordings, right? Like your own recordings. And
Yeah, yeah, mostly that's mostly what we're doing. Yeah.
but reel-to-reel recordings, would that include like CBC archives or any of
I mean, the answer to your question is yes, it could. It's just when you're releasing archival recordings, you have to be really careful because there's a lot of rights holders, like a
mm,
lot of rights holders when it comes to releasing those kinds of records, right?
mm,
So yeah, so it's, yeah, it's, to give you an example, so we actually, I feel like I'd like to show you the covers. We released a Dave Robbins, like not the drummer, but the old trombone Dave Robbins.
mm,
We released, so we had to clear the rights. In some ways, that was easier because we didn't have to find the musicians. All we had to do was lease the rights from CBC. So we had to pay CBC. I got the tapes for free, so that helped.
mm.
We had to pay the CBC to bring all of those musicians up to recording release scale. So that one was quite easy. But if you take another one like any of the other, Cannibal Adderley, you have to find the estate of each of the musicians and you have to negotiate with the estates of each of the musicians. So
Oh, wow.
it's very, 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 very labor intensive. It's
Wow.
worth it in the end when you get something that you're really excited about, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Wow, I know this is really interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know this aspect.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So we've got like these amazing artists that you've recorded. Like, oh, another great one right now that's current is Sharon Minamoto's release.
Oh, Sharon's great. I mean, she's a very good friend, and that's a very good story, that record. It's
Oh,
very
it's a
cool.
very great story. Like
Very good story.
going
Yep.
going back into Canadian history and some of the wrongs that happened here in the
Yep,
Japanese
for sure. It's very cool. It's
she
very,
brought
very
to
cool.
light, and she's a fabulous artist, great composer, all of that. So
She
I
sure
was
is.
happy to see that you got behind that project. But
Yep.
there's been others like Virginia McDonald was an interesting artist that
Yep. Very talented human being. And
yeah.
so it was great to work with her for sure.
And then Ulysses Owens Jr.
Yep.
generation.
Generation Y.
Yeah, there's just so many. Like you've obviously recorded hundreds of people over the years. Are there any kind of standout moments for you?
I mean, I mean, yeah, I guess, I mean, every record sort of has some kind of maybe special meaning for me, I guess. I mean, some more than others, but I mean, as far as standout moments, I mean, it's for me, I feel in some ways it's more about standout relationships, if that makes sense. So, like, my relationship with Miki Yamanaka has resulted in some really great records. My long relationship with Grant Stewart, who's actually Canadian, but he's lived in New York longer than he lived in Canada now.
Mm,
We put out four or five of his records. I love the records that we've done with you mentioned Ulysses Owens Jr. and Generation Y. I'm really excited about an upcoming record
mm,
with Mike DeRubo, an alto saxophonist from New York City, who's a very dear friend of mine. So,
mm.
it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of just about, I just am really thrilled with the relationships that I've managed to forge, over the years, and be able to work with these musicians and put things out. I mean, yeah, of course, there's some records that I like more than others for various different reasons. But, I'm really excited for Ardashir and his first record that I produced, and he's a young guy, and I'm really excited about some of the young musicians in the city, and you
Mm,
know, yeah, and I just yeah, like I said earlier, I don't take a lot of time and pat myself on the back for things. It's not really what I do, but yeah, I mean, if I look, you mentioned my record collection. If I look up on the top two rows of my CD cabinet here are all of Cellar Live's releases, and it's pretty cool to look up there and go, wow, like
mm.
we've really reached a lot of people, and it's really cool. It gives me a sense of pride for sure.
And it's like you've been mentoring these artists too, in a sense that you're
Think
helping.
so, yeah. Some of them I feel that way for sure. Absolutely. I feel that way about some of the musicians that we've been able to help and mentor and give a voice to.
Mm,
Especially in this age of dwindling everything, dwindling gigs and dwindling recording
it's
opportunities.
been
Cellar
hard for
Live, you
musicians.
know, yeah, Cellar Live has provided something that's greatly needed, and so for that, I take a lot of pride in that for sure.
Yeah, for a Canadian label, you've really accomplished so much.
Yeah, it feels like it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're one of our great labels here in Canada. Speaking of, just artists, etc., I was excited. Sometimes you co-produce with other producers, and
Mhm.
you co-produced with a local Vancouver Island producer that I'm kind of friends with, Luigi Peretta, and you did the Red Schwager Ryan Oliver quintet album,
Yep,
Says Reza, which I really really liked too. Both Reg and Ryan Oliver, very very gifted musicians. So
very much so. Yeah,
it was
yeah.
really,
That
really,
was a good record. I wasn't as involved in that as Luis was. That
yeah,
was
yeah. He
you know
produced it, but you were the executive
Yeah,
producer.
yeah. So I helped them bring it to market. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we should make it clear that Luigi was a producer, but
yeah,
you were working with him to help bring it to market.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
maybe a more accurate way of
yeah.
phrasing it. But it's nice to see you, like, just your reach getting out there. You're everywhere.
It's cool. Yeah, I mean it's cool. I mean, yeah, there's not, what else? Yeah, what else can you say? I mean, we're getting our stuff out there, and that's
Yeah.
all. As a record label, it's what you want, right? I mean,
So
so
like, about your saxophone playing, where are you going to take that? Like, how long are you thinking of, like, obviously you're talking about winding things down just so you can maintain good health and, stay focused, and do the things you want to do. Maybe do your own bucket list. What's on your bucket list, by the way?
no, no. It's funny. I don't. It's funny. I don't. I've been so busy working. I haven't really thought of. I haven't really thought of things that I want to do, or I don't know. I'm like everybody. I'm on the search for contentment and happiness, which I sort of think I have. I just it would be nice to not have to work as hard, but there was a brief moment, a brief opportunity came my way to talk about the selling of the label.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it didn't last very long for a number of reasons, but it really started to make me think, like, oh, like, okay, like, if you got enough money to retire from the sale of the label, like, what would you do? And
Mm.
and everybody's like, oh, you'd go crazy, you'd go nuts, you'd never. But I'd like to try it. I'd like to try it because although everything I do isn't motivated by money, I mean, anybody that says it's not about the money, it's always about the money. It's not what drives me, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd like to have a couple $1 million sitting in the bank and seeing what it meant to open my eyes in the morning and not have to worry and not have to grind. I have a very good setup at Frankie's Jazz Club here in Vancouver that I do the booking for, and they pay me well, and it's a job that comes very naturally to me.
Mm.
So yeah, so I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. I mean, I suppose saxophone wise, I'd like to play a little more in Europe because that's just not something that I was ever really able to do because I had a
Oh
family.
yeah, you should go to Europe.
But I mean, I've been to Europe, but I don't even know that I don't even know that that's like a bucket. I don't know that I have things on my bucket list. You know, I'm trying to get my kids through high school and getting them into university and sort of get them set up. So for now, I'm just focused on
Family.
my family and my work and making sure I'm providing what they need. And then once that kind of subsides a little bit, then maybe I'll have some time to think about me and what I want to do. But for now, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I don't have any complaints.
Well, I do work with an organization, so if you ever decide to sell your label, you let me know because I can hook that up for you.
All right. All
If you
right.
want
Yes, that's right. We had that conversation. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's something I've thought about,
people would be bidding on it. Like
you
that's how
know,
it works with Rome Consulting,
yeah,
that's how it works.
so
But by the same token, you've done so much for the Canadian scene and the jazz scene, and you're such an essential component of that. And I just see as you being so essential to our jazz voice here in Canada and our jazz artists. So, if you were ever going to do something like that, it would have to be really thought of very carefully, how you were going to approach it.
yeah, I mean, I think and I don't think this is any big secret, but I know when Jim sold Just in Time, he was on a work through. So,
Yeah.
that was interesting because yeah, I am an integral part of it, and the reason things come together the way they do is because of me. So, yeah, it's not something that I'm actively pursuing, but if somebody came along like this company did come along and we had some initial chats and signed some non-disclosure agreements and started talking, and then like I said, for reasons that aren't important, it didn't work out.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I would certainly be open. Like I said, it's probably not yet anyways. It's not going to be me calling people saying, "Hey, I want to sell a label," but if somebody comes along and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about this," I'd listen for sure. I mean, of course, why? I
Well,
mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, of
okay,
course.
once we're off this interview, I'll talk to you a bit more about that. But I like I said, I as someone in the jazz world myself, I think the idea of like what Jim West did with Just in Time, like having someone else, you know, you know, kind of keep everything going is a
Yeah.
good idea too. So I don't know. It's complex, obviously,
Sure. Yeah, it is. It's not easy and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, it goes to say that you've created an empire, not just a label.
It would be cool. I mean, part of the whole idea of selling too, it's like, wow, I actually created something that's worth something, That's kind of exciting to me. Like, holy cow, like who would have thought, all those years ago when I started at the Cellar that we would build this to become this thing?
And I
Um,
have to laugh as we're doing this interview. You're on your computer doing things, multitasking, like
I'm messing around. Yeah, I can't focus for like,
you're so
I
like me,
got,
but you're like me. You're a multitasker. Like,
yeah.
be a great television director because that's what we do in television directing. We're multitasking like on five different cameras.
All the time. It never ends.
But it's like you're just such the typical entrepreneurial mindset. It's to me, it's like quite inspirational to anyone that like I have a couple of businesses myself. I'm nowhere near the level where you're at, but I just have to say, like, you're an inspiration not just to people in the jazz world and musicians and producers, etc., but just as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurial voice. There's a lot to be said for what you've accomplished and just the risks that you have taken and where you're at now and where you may go and where you may take it.
Oh,
So
thank you. I appreciate it.
I have to say, Corey, very inspirational. Like to
Thank you.
so many of us, you've been one of those really great figures here in the jazz world in Canada.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want to ask you, there's some other artists that I really like that I just wanted
Mhm.
to ask you about, maybe
Sure.
because we don't have much more time. I know that you have to
It's
get going.
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
But Daniel Herzog, Jazz Orchestra, love him.
Yep.
John Lee's another one.
Yeah.
Theology, Neil Swainson, Brad Turner. These artists like are some of our best from Canada. Can
Yep.
you just talk about maybe some of those artists and like I'm just curious to see what you would say.
Oh, sure. Yeah. All. So first of all, yeah, they're all great musicians. Daniel Herzog's a great writer. He's a great
Oh,
arranger.
love him.
He's a
Yeah.
great guy. He's a very, very visionary based guy. He's got ideas and He's got a crazy musical mind. He also produced the Vancouver Jazz Orchestra record, and he was brilliant at that. So that's
I
very
know,
cool.
I know. He's
John
very
Lee's been a good friend of mine for a long time, and I mean, what can you say about John? He's like
prodigy. Yeah.
one of the most talented dudes ever. So John and I play a lot together. And as I said, he's become a very good friend of mine. So just
Good.
happy to work with him and happy to be around his level of genius.
Yeah.
Triology is a very cool band made up of three of Canada's finest. And it's last record that they did for me with Scott Hamilton is one of my favorites. It's a
Mm,
fantastic record.
love it.
I was talking at length about Brad Turner the other day with someone I can't remember. And
That was a really good album. I
yeah.
was looking at that so closely. Like I love that album.
Yeah. He's such a talent. He's somebody that we all, especially I mean, Brad's not that much older than me, but when I first met Brad, his career was already on the rise. And so we all aspired to be like him and be
Mm,
around him. And, so Brad remains a close friend of mine. So, yeah, I
yeah.
mean, just I get to hang out with all these great musicians and learn from them and help them create provide something for them so they can create their music. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm lucky.
Yeah. A
Neil
lot of
Swainson, I mean, you mentioned Neil Swainson. I mean, he's become a very good friend, of course, Canadian legend. Like, yeah, so yeah, it's
I have
phenomenal.
to ask you, like, whether you have awards yet or not, it doesn't matter. You really deserve them. Have there been Juno Awards along the way? And
Yeah, I got a Juno for producer of Metalwood 20, which would have been in 2017.
that was
Uh,
a good album. Yeah.
yeah, I got a Grammy for the Stephen Feifke, Bajan Watson, Generation Gap Orchestra. We
Oh,
got the
you got a Grammy?
Yeah,
Why didn't
we got the Grammy for
you
that, so it's
pass it
pretty
by my
exciting.
fingers? I'm really sorry that I didn't introduce you that way
It's all
because
good. It's all
that is,
good. So that was cool. And then there's been I got nominated once for my own project. I'm not a big fan of the Junos. I'm not afraid to go on record about how I feel the Junos go about their business. I think it's not good and it's not cool and it's not fair. And if I was ever given the opportunity to let them know that, I would. Having said that, I don't ever want to take anything away from anyone that's ever won or been nominated. That's not my attempt, and that's why I can't be more vocal about it. Because it comes across as sour grapes, but
mm.
I don't like the Junos, and I think that they should be ashamed at the way they go about their business. But
Well,
you
I
know,
have to ask you something. Does it have to do with just who's judging the Junos? Like, I just wanted to ask you because let's just talk about music judging in Canada. It's being led by English grads, not music experts.
I
It's
don't
like,
even know. Yeah, I don't even know. I just the Toronto centric and the Toronto focus
yeah.
makes me crazy,
Oh,
and I would just love them to just admit it, and then we could all just move on. But
yeah.
look, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's so much more I'd love to say, but it just every year, I'm like, really, really, like, I
Mm,
mean, how am I the one of the busiest labels in the country? Well,
mm,
no, no, let me rephrase that. I
mm.
am the biggest and the most busy jazz label probably that this country has ever seen, and
Oh,
we've got
yeah.
in 26 years, we've got one win and four nominations.
Yeah, no,
Seems a little weird.
it's a bit weird. It is a bit
Seems a
weird.
little weird to me. And again, I don't. It's not sour grapes. It's when I see the Toronto centricness of that.
But
That's what makes me mad.
I have to tell you, part of it is related to who the judges are in
Of
this
course.
because in places like France, they actually have music experts judging music awards, okay? But here in Canada, it's radio hosts, English grads. These are people that don't understand instrumental music. They don't know how a fugue operates. They don't know what form is. They don't know, even what like 12 tone music is. They don't understand the real nature of
No,
what it really
you
is.
know.
judging it, and so they don't necessarily understand instrumental
No,
music.
they don't. And they come on, the president, Alan Reed, comes on and talks about how Canada, how it's a Canadian award show and it's across the nation. And no, it's not. It's Toronto. It's just Toronto. And I don't know how it is in the pop world, and I don't care. I'm not involved in that world. But when
Mm,
it comes to jazz, which they already don't care about, which is fine. Nobody, I get it. Nobody cares about jazz. It's not sexy. It's not made for TV stuff. Just the Toronto centricness of it makes me crazy, and this is the most vocal I've ever been about it.
mm.
Um, because again, I don't want to come across as
No, I think it's good that you're
yeah,
bringing it up because maybe people back east need to hear, so from someone as successful as you about maybe what your perspective is because maybe there needs to be some work done in that area, you
yeah.
know.
And I bet at the end of the day, I don't do it for the awards. I don't care. My awards extend way farther than a stupid Juno trophy, but it certainly gives me some credence with the next door neighbor and the people across the street who like don't understand what I do, and then they see that I want to have a Juno, and they're like, "Oh, well, he must be really good," So
What
it's
about
that
the
kind of thing,
Grammy? The
or the
Grammy
Grammy, the Grammy or whatever. So I mean, even that is, I'm so grateful I got it, but even that whole process it's very funny. So
it's really hard to get a Grammy,
yeah,
Corey.
it is, and I'm grateful. I mean, I'm very proud of it, and but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
listen, I'd love to see you winning all the Juno Awards and maybe a couple more Grammys is on the way, wouldn't surprise me. Bria's album is phenomenal this
Yeah,
year.
well, we're hoping that one gets a nod this year, so we'll see
So
what
rich.
happens.
Her voice is
Yeah, she's great.
such a beautiful
Yeah,
sound to it on that album. I love how you recorded it, how
yeah.
you captured it. The production is all the details are there, That's the other thing. You're getting the details.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's, you have to pay, yeah, you
It's
have to pay close attention to that stuff for sure.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Love it. So I think you really got the technical details on that album. Like I'm not saying that you don't normally get them, but I just as a release, like I can't wait to hear the whole album. Like I've loved it. I love
Great.
it.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you.
Well, I guess what we should do is wrap up because I know you had said you had to be somewhere by 4:30
Yeah, I got to go to work.
and it's already 4:30. So but thanks so much for chatting with me. Like, and I should better ask. Like, I've been kind of asking everyone that I interview these days. Well, if you were going to say something to the young up and comers, or the emerging artists, or the emerging producers, what are your words for them? Because uh, the music industry is hard. It's really, really hard for our musicians to do well. It's hard for the producers. It's become a very difficult industry. What are your words of wisdom there? What are
I
your
mean,
words?
my words of wisdom are don't listen to the naysayers because we could have a whole conversation on is it harder today than it was when I was coming up?
Mm,
Is it really harder than it was 25 years ago? And I would say no, it's just different. So don't listen to the naysayers. Respect the past, respect the tradition, but push forward and use the things that are available to you. Use everything that's available to you. There's so many resources out there that are available now that I didn't have when I was coming up. There's so much out there. There's so much out there to help you and to use. So use it, and you know, don't listen to the naysayers. Just I never listened to anybody. I didn't care. I had my idea what I wanted to do and I just did it. And I got, like I said at the start of the interview, there was some luck involved,
mm,
mostly hard work, but there was some luck involved, but I knew what I wanted to do and I just did it. So,
I
you know,
love it.
yep,
I love it. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me today on
no problem.
Jazz FM Easy Jazz Spotlight. It's just been fantastic talking to you. Wish you continued success. Was really so as a past downbeat writer myself, I was just so pleased to see you there on
Hmm.
the downbeat list twice, not just once, but twice. And you deserve to be there. And I know that going forward, you'll just with you, Corey. I don't think it matters what you set your mind to. You're just the type of hardworking individual that gets things done, and you're a success no matter what you do. So, yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate the support.
yeah. Thanks, Corey, and
Awesome.
and thanks so much. And I'm just going to wrap it up by saying if you'd like to check out Cory Weeds and see all the recordings and buy them and purchase them and learn more about them, where can we check out your work?
You can go to my website. My personal website is coryweeds.com. So just CORY weeds.com. And the label site is cellarlive.com. Cellar is with a C.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Cory.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye now.
See you later.